sea's dark secrets. Monsters. Are they real?
But we were headed for the edge of sanity.
I believe you have seen things no one else has seen.
What is it? Abandoned ship. We can't row away home. We might also survive.
Don't you quit on me. We're going home.
Say you're scared! Say it! So I live and breathe. He's mine.
So it's true.
Yes. Too much is true.
Hello guys, my name is Fatur Rasyid. In here, I will give some explanation about intrinsic and extrinsic element in the movie In the Heart of the Sea. First of all, I will introduce myself. My name is Fatur Rasyid from E-Class. And so the next is, let's go to the material. The presentation content is intrinsic element and extrinsic element. The first is intrinsic element, including character, plot development, setting, theme, and point of view. The last is tone. And the second one is extrinsic element, including moral value. And next. First of all is intrinsic element and the character. Major character is in here in this movie is Owen Chase, Captain George Pollard, and Thomas Nickerson. The minor character is Herman Melville, Mrs. Nickerson, Matthew Joy, Peggy or Mrs. Chase, Mr. Pollard Senior, and Nantucket townsman. Next slide is plot development, including exposition, racing action, climax, falling action, and the last is resolution. And the first is exposition. The beginning of this film around 1850, in the state of Nantucket, there is a fishing town called Massachusetts. One night, there was a novelist named Herman Melville who wanted to meet his source person for the story he was going to write in the novel. Herman Melville visited the shop, which was also the residence of the source person. The source person named Thomas Nickerson. Mr. Nickerson is one of the surviving sailors tragedy of the Walling tragedy in the past. At first, Mr. Nickerson refused to tell about his past experiences because he still felt traumatic. But due to insistence by Mrs. Nickerson, finally Mr. Nickerson wants to recount his experience. And then Mr. Nickerson described his fishing experience in the 1819s when he was 14 years old. Mr. Nickerson also started his story with two great figures who led the ship. They were the Captain George Pollard and the first sailor Owen Chase. Mr. Owen Chase moved on direct order from the captain George Pollard to control the ship or gave order to the crew. And the next plot development is racing action. The racing action from this movie is when the ship, the name Essex, a large ship and very suitable for use at sea, but the voyage was not traveled that easily. One day, there was a thunderstorm which made their ship suffer a little damage, but they still continue the process of hunting for whale oil. Soon, they got one whale from the hunting, but the oil produced from one whale was still not enough to meet the demand of the company owner. So then they continue their voyage from Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, that's far away. They have been sailing for almost a year, but one whale colonies are still hard to find. Then the ship docked in Atacames, Ecuador to find more information about whale oil hunting. At Atacames, they met a Spanish sailor who told him about their ship that was destroyed by a giant whale. As a result of the attack, the Spanish captain lost money, his crew, and lost one of his arms. And the next plot development is climax. The climax of this film is after getting a little information from the what happened to the Spanish captain, Captain George Pollard and his crew would still sail with east wind and be in position to the open ocean. Soon they encountered a whale colony. This time, more whale colonies than they had encountered before. When the hunting process was carried out, suddenly their ship was shaken badly. Then their ship also received repeated attacks from the giant whale. And then so their ship was badly damaged and exploded due to the remaining oil store on the deck of the ship. In the end, the ship sank and crew of the ship died. Because their ship was wrecked, another way to cross the ocean is by boat. After long floating in the open ocean, hoping for a gust of wind and fewer supplies, they finally found an island. However, the giant whale still following them and destroy the lifeboat, wherein just before they reach the island. Now the sailor is stranded on an unknown island for months without food. Due to lack of food and drink, there were some sailors who could not survive and died. As a result of depleted supply of food, the surviving sailor did not bury the bodies of their dead friend, but they had to eat the member who had died to sustain their own lives. And that's the climax of this movie. The next plot development is falling action. The falling action turned out they were stranded on Dusi Island. The island is small and uninhabited. After repairing the lifeboat on the island, finally, 3 were members who continued to sail and return home, but there were 3 members who survived the island. Then, after floating for 71 days, they again ran out of food and raffle fate to determine one of the members to be killed and eaten. Soon it turned out that they will still following by giant whale. Oh, that's interesting. But this time the whale did not make an attack and then left and never came back again. So they will never came back after this. Back only take advantage of the gust of wind. The three lifeboats that each member was carrying become separate after 90 days of flood. Finally, the lifeboat carrying one Captain George Pollard was found by another ship, while the lifeboat carrying the Owen Chase managed to learn against a dog, and another lifeboat was lost in the open sea. After surviving and meeting his family, finally Owen Chase picked up his friend who still stranded on Ducie Island, and that is the falling action. And the next plot development is resolution. The resolution of this movie is after the traumatic incident he experienced while at sea. Owen Chase decided not to do wild hunting anymore and choose to become a merchant, because Owen Chase thinks that the whale that have been hunted all this time are living things like human or other creatures that have the right to exist. This film closed after going back to the 1819s, so the old man Nickerson who finished his story and Herman Melville who recorded what Mr. Nicholson told. And the last, apart from that, Mr. Nicholson also told Herman Melville that this near the source of oil from drilling had been found, so there was no need to hunt whales to find oil. That is the all plot development of this story. And the next part is settings, including setting of time and setting of place. Setting of time, February 1950 and around 1820s. Setting of place, Nantucket Island, Atacames in Ecuador, Atlantic Ocean, Cape Horn, Chile, Pacific Ocean, and the last, Henderson Island or Ducie Island in Pacific Ocean. The next part is them. To them in here, the first is fear and the second is suffering. Fear. It is the real representation of man versus the natural world, because the whale terror can be broke anything in the sea. Besides the whale terror, another terror is being stranded 1,000 miles away from human civilization. And the second is suffering. After ship attack and sunk by alpha whale, the surviving crew make a desperate trek across 1,000 miles of open sea. That's not easy. They face starvation and madness. And the next part is tone. The tone of the movie is tragic, because although the process of whale hunting is led by people who are experienced in this field and also using fairly decent and large ship, but they don't necessarily get what they want. In the end, the ship was damaged and sunk as a result of an attack from giant whale. Not only the ship was damaged and sunk, but also many of the crew died as a result of the whale attack or could not survive because of starvation. And the next intrinsic element is point of view. In the Heart of the Sea was told directly by Thomas Nickerson based on the experiences he had while at the sea. So the point of view in this film is first person point of view. And the next material is extrinsic element, including moral values. In the Heart of the Sea teach us a lot of human limitation. And the second, this film depicts of dedication in doing a job even though the work is too heavy. Okay, thank you for your attention. I think that's enough. So goodbye.